Okay, so if you've ever tried to make a big change in your life, you know it can be just excruciating, right? It feels like you're losing everything, your mind, your friends, maybe even who you are. But what if that pain isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong? What if it's actually a necessary, predictable part of becoming the person you were always meant to be?
This right here, this isn't just a pretty sentence. It's basically neuroscience. See, your nervous system, the very wiring of your body, it literally cannot tell the difference between the death of your identity and your actual physical death. So when you start to let go of that old self, every alarm bell in your body starts screaming at you to go back to what's familiar, back to the person who kept you safe, even if they were also keeping you small.
The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung saw this all the time. People would show up in his office absolutely convinced they were breaking down. Their relationships were imploding, they lost their motivation, they felt like they were losing themselves. But Jung saw something totally different. He realized, no, this isn't a breakdown, this is a breakthrough. This is the messy, painful, absolutely essential beginning of becoming whole.
Jung actually gave this process a name, individuation. And yeah, the definition sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Becoming psychologically whole. Sounds serene. But Jung was really clear that from the inside, it feels nothing like that. It feels like a complete and total dismantling of everything you thought you were.
And this is such a critical distinction to make. You know, modern self-help is usually about addition. You add a new habit, you learn a new skill, all to become an improved version of you. But Jung's idea of individuation is the total opposite. It's a process of subtraction. It's about stripping away the false self, the personality you built just to survive, so you can finally uncover the actual you that's been buried underneath. It's not about improvement, it's about recovery.
So this process of subtraction, according to Jung's work, it really boils down to 3 specific and honestly devastating losses. And these aren't just side effects of the journey, they are the journey. So let's break them down one by one.
First up, you have to grieve your false self, what Jung called the persona. Now, this isn't some mask you can just easily take off. Think of it more like a survival suit that's been fused to your nervous system for years. It's the version of you that knew how to get approval, how to keep everyone around you comfortable, and letting that go, it feels like losing a limb. Even when you know, logically, that person was never really you to begin with.
And this is the truly cruel paradox of this first stage. As you actually start becoming more authentic, finally having your own needs, setting boundaries, dropping the people-pleasing act, it doesn't feel like freedom. At first, it feels like you're becoming a selfish, bad person. Jung saw this over and over again. His patients saw their own healing as a kind of moral failing, all because they couldn't play the part that society and their family had expected of them for so long.
This leads you straight into the second loss, confronting what Jung called the shadow. And the shadow isn't just your dark side or the evil stuff. No, it's every single part of you that you had to reject to keep your persona intact. It's all the qualities you decided were unacceptable and basically just amputated from your conscious self. So what's hiding down there? Well, for the lifelong people pleaser, it's their buried rage. For the selfless caretaker, it's their own selfishness, their own needs and wants. For the person who always has to be strong, it's their vulnerability. You see? These aren't defects. They are absolutely essential parts of a whole human being. And trying to bring them back into the fold is deeply, deeply destabilizing.
You know, when you finally face this part of yourself, it creates what Jung called moral vertigo. It's this dizzying feeling when you realize, wow, maybe I'm not the hero in this story. Maybe I've been part of the problem. The temptation to just retreat, to run right back to the old, comfortable false self is immense. Jung called it the regression temptation, and frankly, it's the point where a lot of people just stop, because the truth feels, well, it feels unbearable.
And all of this internal chaos, it almost always spills out into the real world, which leads to the third, and for many, the most devastating loss of all, the loss of belonging. Because when you stop playing your assigned role, you don't just risk your old identity. You risk your place in every system you're a part of, your family, your friendships, even your job.
And here's the crucial thing to understand. The resistance you get from other people isn't always malicious, not at all. Relationships, families, they're like these little psychological ecosystems. Everyone has their part to play. So when you fundamentally change your part, when the family scapegoat suddenly stops taking all the blame, or the quiet peacekeeper starts speaking uncomfortable truths, the entire system gets thrown into chaos, and it will fight to get you back in your box.
All that chaos pushes you into what anthropologists call the liminal space. It is a terrifying, in-between place where you don't fit in your old life anymore, but you haven't yet figured out where you belong as this new person. You feel like a total alien. It's a profound existential loneliness that is just incredibly hard to sit with. And that's exactly why Jung believed that a container is absolutely essential for this work. Because the isolation of that liminal space can crush you. You need something or someone to hold the process. It could be a therapist, a really understanding partner, a creative practice, anything. But you need at least one witness who can see what's happening and not get scared off.
So look, if there is one thing you take away from all of this, please let it be this. The grief, the confusion, the loneliness, the feeling that you've screwed everything up. That is not evidence that you failed or taken a wrong turn. That suffering is the transformation. It is the very texture of the work itself.
What Jung also noticed is that over time, the quality of the pain starts to change. The sharp agony of destruction slowly begins to soften into the dull ache of reconstruction. It's kind of like the soreness you feel after a really hard workout. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but you know it's the feeling of something new and stronger being built underneath.
So if this is where you are right now, if you feel like you are just completely coming undone at the seams, I want you to remember this. You are not falling apart.
You are falling into yourself. And that pain you feel, it's the most reliable evidence you have that the ground you're about to land on, maybe for the first time in your entire life, is going to be real. And that is the devastating and ultimately liberating truth of what it really costs to become